Non-traditional or virtual instruction for public schools is something most of us had never considered before the COVID pandemic. Without much warning, it's now our reality, and to a large degree, we're learning how to do it as we go. For one, our teachers have really been challenged to deliver their instruction in this new format, without the personal contact they're used to. But it's also been a huge challenge for parents who, like teachers, have no experiences to call on for making this work. The purpose of this module is to provide some simple suggestions for helping parents create a successful virtual learning experience for their children. These suggestions are based on our experiences and our conversations with both teachers and parents. Let's start with the schedule. During the school year, your children likely go to bed, get up, leave for school, and take lunch on a very consistent schedule. Without even realizing it, this consistency creates predictability for students. Each segment of the day is a predictor for the next. I know that after I eat, I brush my teeth, get my coat, go to the door, and at school, I know that English leads to lunch, and lunch leads to gym time, etc. It's really easy to lose the structure of a schedule when the children are constantly home. Bedtimes begin to slide and kids are sleeping later, not eating specific meals, and generally not adhering to a schedule. But the schedule is an important part of helping our children to predict what's happening. There need to be predictable school times, eating times, sleeping times, and other activity times. It may even be helpful to create a written schedule. This likely was not necessary when kids were going to school. The schedule just kind of worked out around the school's times. But having a schedule in writing and referring to it often will help to create predictable routines where our kids know when it's time for bed, time to eat, and time for school. The bottom line here is that our children need to have their sleep, their eating times, and their school times occur in a consistent manner, so that they can get into a groove and be ready for learning when it's school time. As a final thought, even high school students can use a reminder to use the restroom before class starts. Next, let's talk about the learning environment itself. At school, we have classrooms, desks, and a teacher's interaction to signal students that it is learning time. At home, those signals are not there, so we need to create our own. Here are some simple suggestions. First, create a space for learning that is away from spaces that are used for other activities. For example, it's best to avoid having our kids sitting in front of the TV or laying on a bed during virtual instruction. These areas are associated with non-instructional environments and should be kept this way. In fact, it would be best to set a special area at a table or desk and designate it as the school site. This will help kids to understand that the expectations are specific to learning when in this location. Just as teachers think about student location in the classroom, for students that are particularly distractible, it may be a good idea to create a space away from traffic patterns or other interesting activities. It's hard for any of us to concentrate when there are other activities going on all around us. Teachers report that basic behavior issues are one of their greatest challenges during virtual instruction, and this is not at all surprising. Behavior is very context-driven. We all use certain words with friends, but not at work, and we're more likely to put our feet on the table at home than when we're out. The same is true for our kids. Until recently, the house has been a context completely separate from the school. Kids can get up, walk around, go to the bathroom, get a drink, talk to someone, or even eat without having to ask anyone's permission. Now, all of a sudden, we've pushed the school into the house and the expectations need to be taught. Of course, having a schedule and creating a learning environment make it much easier to teach the virtual classroom expectations. They are connected to times and places. When you go to your computer in the designated spot and the teacher is running class, The expectation is that you stay seated, have your camera turned on, and you stay focused on the teacher's directions. These seem obvious, but remember, this is all new to our kids and they don't always understand that the context has changed and home is now sometimes the same as school. For younger children and those who have more difficulty with change, these expectations may require practice ahead of time. The final suggestion involves supervision. Of course, not every parent can actually be present to oversee instruction. Many of us go to work or are otherwise tied up with other responsibilities. If and when we do have the ability to be present, it's not necessary to hover over the children as they're engaged with the class, but it is nice to be within earshot and to have occasional glances to see how things look. But whether we're able to be there or not, it's important to talk to our kids about what they covered in class each day. It doesn't have to be the dinner conversation. It can just be informal. It can be check-ins to ask what was learned, or what the assignments are, and what help might be able to be provided. These informal check-ins create both a message that school is important and that we really care about how things are going. Needless to say, our kids are not always totally forthcoming about what goes on in school. It's not spying to have regular email or phone contact with teachers. This is an opportunity to ask how our kids are doing and what extra steps we might take to assist. These very basic strategies are no guarantee because there are no guarantees. But using them does increase the likelihood of a positive virtual schooling experience. And every little bit of help counts.